Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, folks. I'm Paul Muldoon from the university, and I'm the organizer of the Princeton Poetry Festival, and it's my great delight to welcome you here this morning. We're thrilled to think that this year, for the first time, we hope not the last, that Poetry Out Loud is part of the overall festival. There are a couple of reasons why we're very excited by that. One of them is one that's expressed in this book here, just came out last year. It's called Heartbeats, Everyday Life and the Memorized Poem by Catherine Robson. And it's a book which looks at three poems. The core of this book, she says, addresses the intersection between everyday life and a mere 200 lines of poetry. Felicia Hayman's Casabianca, Thomas Gray's Elegy Written in a Country Churchyard, and Charles Wolfe's Burial of Sir John Moore after Corinna. And all three works, she writes, widely read in schools and continuously reprinted in anthologies, were memorized and recited, whether willingly or unwillingly, in whole or in part, by significant proportions of the population in English-speaking countries for substantial stretches of the 19th and 20th centuries. In consequence, these verses carried the potential to touch and alter the worlds of the huge numbers of people who took them to heart. And that impulse is one that we're celebrating today. In that core of what we memorize together, we find our own being. Together we learn to make sense of the world through what we share in our memories. We're particularly pleased to have Poetry Out Loud here for another reason. It's very simple. If primary and secondary level students are not interested in poetry, there is no point in our continuing at the tertiary level. If we don't have students who are interested in poetry, who are we going to be teaching? So that's a very real concern for us, and it's one of the reasons, apart from the joy of having you all here, why we want to welcome you today. My happy task here is to introduce Carol Cronheim, who's really going to get things off to a proper start. Carol Cronheim has a degree in classics from Princeton. She has a master's in politics from the Eagleton Institute of Politics at Rutgers University and a PhD from the Bluestein School of Planning and Public Policy, also at Rutgers. She's currently the Assistant Secretary of State for the Christie administration. Her responsibilities include all of the cultural divisions in the department, including the New Jersey State Council on the Arts, the New Jersey Cultural Trust, the New Jersey Historical Commission, the State Museum, and the archives. So we're thrilled that in the midst of so many responsibilities and such a busy day that she's taken the opportunity to get us started. So it's a great honor for me to welcome and introduce Carol Cronheim.
Good morning. I'm delighted to be here this morning. Standing so close to my old department at East Pine, I feel like I'd be remiss if I didn't start us off with a stanza, brief, I promise, of one of the original poets, Homer. Of course, the murals, they help too. Andromoi enapomusa polutropon, hos malapola plankthe, epe troius hieron polyethron erpeson. Or as translated by the late, great Princeton professor Robert Fagles, sing to me of the man muse, the man of twists and turns, driven time and again off course once he had plundered the hallowed heights of Troy. Now I'm tempted to go on, but considering the caliber of the competitors today, I've thought better of it. So instead, I'll just note that the term poet laureate comes from the laurel wreath, which was awarded to the victors of both athletic competitions and poetry contests. Indeed, today you are following in an ancient and proud tradition, one that I'm happy to see is being revived. Poetry Out Loud is a national competition happening in every state across the country. The program sprang from the inspired heads of the National Endowment for the Arts and the Poetry Foundation, and it has just exploded. Nationwide, hundreds of thousands of high school students are finding their own voices in works of great poetry, as we'll see today. This morning's competition, the 8th annual, is the culminating event for a contest that began in the fall. I applaud the great amount of work that has already been put in by the students, teachers, and staff from all across the state. The numbers tell the story of how valued and popular this program has become. Nearly 375,000 high school students across the country have participated in Poetry Out Loud. Here in New Jersey, more than 20,000 New Jersey students from 123 high schools and one homeschool association have participated this year. As a state, we rank in the top 4 nationally in the number of participating students. And that's really quite remarkable. The competition started at the classroom level, moved to the school level, and then the winners from each school competed in 4 regional contests to determine the 8 finalists, 2 from each region, who would move on to today's competition. The competition statewide has been very tough and more than impressive. Speaking of tough and impressive, I want to take a moment to recognize some special guests with us here today. From the New Jersey State Council on the Arts, we have 2 of our staunchest members, Larry Carlbon and Carol Herbert, and a favorite former member, Dr. Arthur Factor, as well as the tireless executive director of the council, Nick Paleologos. So welcome to our guests. I'm also pleased to welcome our 2012 New Jersey Poetry Out Loud state champion, Kristin Tsuo. It's a real testament to the positive impact that this program has had, that you've come back to support those following in your footsteps. Kristin is a senior at the Lawrenceville School, and I believe is heading to Harvard University, where she received admission this fall. So congratulations, Kristin. We'll get to hear from Kristin about her experience with Poetry Out Loud a little later in the program, but we're very grateful you're here today. The Department of State and the Arts Council are proud to sponsor New Jersey's Poetry Out Loud program, which continues to grow and is considered a model among our colleagues across the nation. Apart from engaging a record number of students, New Jersey is among the only states to take full advantage of the positive impact and benefits of Poetry Out Loud by offering intensive school residencies by professional poets and performing artists. And this is really critical if you really want to make poetry as meaningful and as well taught as possible in our school system. It's really a wonderful program the Arts Council is doing. New Jersey Poetry Out Loud has become one of the most ambitious and collaborative programs that the Council supports, and collaboration is the key word. The program is made possible through the generous funding and leadership of the National Endowment for the Arts and the Poetry Foundation. We also offer particular thanks to our growing list of program partners. Such a long list, in fact, that I ask you to look at the back of your programs because there are many, many names on that. The list includes Playwrights Theater of New Jersey, the Art Pride New Jersey Foundation, and Cavan Carey Press. Thank you and everyone listed for your outstanding commitment to this exciting program. And for the first time this year, we count Princeton University among our partners through its Lewis Center for the Arts. Thanks to their support of this program, we find ourselves here in beautiful Princeton Auditorium, an impressive and fitting background for the excellent feats of poetry we are about to enjoy. Thank you to Michael Caden, chair of the Lewis Center, and Professor Paul Muldoon for not just welcoming Poetry Out Loud to Princeton, but for including the program as part of your prestigious International Poetry Festival. New this year, the New Jersey Poetry Out Loud state champion and the runner-up will recite at the 2 o'clock session of the poetry session right here on this stage. Now I'd like to recognize a few people behind the scenes who have been instrumental in putting together today's New Jersey Poetry Out Loud program. First of all, Robin Middleman, who is our Senior Program Officer for Arts Education at the State Arts Council, has shepherded this program in New Jersey for the past 8 years. And for the third year in a row, she has worked alongside our New Jersey Poetry Out Loud coordinator, Tammy Herman. Together, they work to ensure the program is on track and of the highest quality all year long. Thank you, Robin and Tammy, and all the other council staff here today and back at the office who have assisted with this year's Poetry Out Loud program. I'd like to give a special thank you to Steve Runk of the Lewis Center, formerly with us, and the staff here at Princeton Auditorium and University Services for pulling the day together and helping to make it so very special. Thank you, Steve and staff. And now it's my pleasure to turn the program over to another force behind the scenes and a great performer in his own right, John Pietrowski. John is the artistic director of Playwrights Theater. He's an accomplished actor, writer, director, and educator, and has played a key role in Poetry Out Loud from the very beginning. Please help me welcome your Poetry Out Loud MC, John Pietrowski.
Hey everybody, how you doing? Good? Not that good. How you doing? Good. Yeah. All right. I'm John Pietrowski, as Ms. Cronheim just said, and I'm here today to kind of guide you through the whole process of this. A couple of things. One real quick thing that's actually rather important. We're webcasting today, and so if anybody's out there doing live streaming on whatever live streaming device they may possess, you need to stop it now. It interferes with the webcasting. And while I'm saying that, you might want to all turn off your cell phones as well, because it's a very solitary, private thing that's going on up here, and a cell phone would not go well with it, all right? So please double check, make sure your phones are off. I'm going to tell you a real quick story, and then we got to move. One would ask, why would a guy who runs a theater company, and supposedly some people who say is a playwright, I'm not so sure about that, but I'll let it go, why would he be interested in poetry? I grew up about 6 miles from here in Hamilton Square, and my grandfather and my father ran a gas station, and my mother used to do their books, and part of doing the books was that she had a little typewriter sitting in the kitchen. When I was about 9 or 10, I would wake up really early in the morning, I would grab this little child's encyclopedia called the Book of Knowledge, and I would sneak into the kitchen and I would open it up to the poetry in the book, and I would meticulously retype the poems in the book. And then I would hide them from my mother for some reason. This was good for me. It was not good for the typewriter. I was soon discovered and discovered wrecking the typewriter because I pressed too hard. And so they bought me a little plastic typewriter. And I went and they put it in my room. And I would wake up very early in the morning. I would grab my little book. I would retype the poems. I would hide them under the blotter until I had a stack about that thick, and I was discovered. Then I started writing my own stuff as a kid. And I go off to college, and I'm very pleased at my college that there's this little room in the middle of the library where there's all this poetry, and I can go hide there. And I kept writing poetry, and I kept writing poetry, and I kept writing poetry. Never showed it to anybody. And then this past January, I made a decision, and I went down to a poetry writing conference down by the shore. And I took with me my little folder of poetry fragments and ideas and all of this stuff. And I got this really difficult writing prompt from a Princeton professor here, James Richardson, and I didn't know what to do. So I reached into my little folder and I pulled out this, my Poetry Out Loud program from last year. And I'm like, what is that doing in here? Well, apparently I had 3 poetry ideas, a play idea, and sprawled across some of the pages the beginnings of a poem. So between rounds, I was getting ideas. I was scrawling stuff down. And this is my hope for you today. Poetry is an amazing, beautiful thing. It is a distillation and a celebration of the human experience. It is probably one of the most creative things that we can do. You will sit here and you will hear some of the most beautiful words ever created in the English language today. And you will love them and you will listen to them. It's my hope that you will go back and you will read more poetry and you will love poetry the way so many of us love poetry. But I also want this. I want you all to be inspired. Not inspired just to write poetry, that may not be your thing, but to dance, to act, to sing, to play your musical instrument, whatever it is you do to express yourself, to make something out of nothing, which is what we were meant to be when we were brought here originally. Do it, and let this inspire you to do it, because I know it will. All right? So let me just sort of walk you through the day here. First of all, not all of the poets not all of the students who are going to be reciting up here came with busloads of people, so please cheer for everybody equally, because there's going to be some who have brought 50, and there may be some people who have maybe 2 or 3. So that we need to have a good general happy spirit here and a good rousing spirit for everybody up here, because it actually helps them to do better. In a few minutes, what we'll do is I'm going to bring out somebody who's going to get us going with a good poem, and after that, we will bring out. Before that, I will bring out the writers, the poets, and introduce them to you, and then they will go away, and then we will begin to bring them on one by one for the rounds. But we will take a little bit of time between each student so that the judges can complete their scoring, and then our wonderful musicians here, Josh Robinson, Jeremy Dyan, will play a little music for you to bridge it through. They're wonderful, aren't they? Yeah. And we will then roll through the rounds. All right. What I also need to do today is we have our judges who are here working on scoring the poems. We have Tracy K. Smith, who's a Pulitzer Prize-winning poet and teacher. Bonnie Monty, artistic director of Shakespeare Theater of New Jersey, in the town where my theater is. Marcus Jackson, who's a poet and teacher. Claudia Larocco, who's the founding and artistic director of performanceclub.org, based in New York, and Danielle Constance, who is serving as the accuracy judge. She's a professional stage manager and props maker. The judges will use the same criteria through all of the contest levels here that were used at all of the contest levels in the regional contests, and so that everything that you see today is being judged exactly the same way that it was for these people to get here. So now, without any further ado, I am going to introduce our performers for this morning. Coming in first, Cameron D. Clarke from Dr. Ronald E. McNair High School. Julia Nicole Shapiro from Holmdel High School. Jessica Sella from Kearney High School. Hannah Anderson from Mainland Regional High School. Emily Scheider from the Morris County School of Technology. Christelle Marie Chua from Mother Seton Regional High School. Kavita Oza from the Peddie School. And Callie Mae Bowen from the Woodstown Piles Grove Regional High School. And if you give us a second here, folks, we're going to take a little photo, I believe. Yes? No? I guess not. So let's just give them a round of applause. And thank you very much, folks, and you can exit stage right. So now, before we get going here, I have the great pleasure to introduce to you an amazing poet and an amazing man. He calls me the man. I am not the man. I am the intermediary man. This is the man, Lamont Dixon.
Wow. You all here just for poetry, huh? My goodness. All right, so I'm definitely happy to be here. For those of you who may not know, so there are 4 regions. And for Region 1, I was the MC for Region 1, which was held at Rutgers University. And as a celebration for all of the poets who were performing there, I wrote a poem titled Shout Outs, which was basically a celebration of all those poets who were participating. So, and Robin Middleman asked me if I would read this again today. So I had to do a little editing because we have new people here. So it's not just a shout out, it's not just a celebration of those poets who are here today, but it's a shout out and a celebration of all the poets who have participated in Poetry Out Loud. Now, I need your help though, because this requires a little call and response. So when I say, all hail, you all have to say, all hail. Can we try that? All right. All hail. All hail. Very good. All right. So, these teenage contenders, these battle-tested bards, these sparring Olympians, having been ceremoniously baptized in the regional ancient art of poetics, represent the best New Jersey has to offer. So I want to give a shout out to Julia and Jessica and Kavita and Hannah. All hail! All hail! To Emily and Christelle and Cameron. All hail! All hail! And a Jabberwocky and Kaloo to Callie Mae. All hail! All hail! To the audience, gathered in this Madison Square Garden state of wordplay, sip these poems and open to the emotions that they convey. For these heavyweight soothsayers will pull no punches today. All hail! All hail! Shout outs to Mainland and Morris County and McNair and Mother Seton, to Kearney and Homedale, Peddie and Woodstown. All hail! All hail! We've had Vikings and Spartans and pirates wielding razor-sharp battle axe poems, smeared onto their faces like Apache war paint. We've had warriors and wolverines whose Listerine rhymes puncture minds like 9-inch canines. Shout outs to lions and tigers and rams, oh my, and eagles and mustangs and cougars. All hail! All hail! Hail to the setters and the devils and the falcons and the hornets. All hail! All hail! Collectively, they are pugilistic poets. Before your very ears, they'll float like butterflies and sting like bees. They'll throw uppercut metaphors and knock out similes. Armed with verses and stanzas forged from steel, lips primed to speak, to spit, to spar, to spiel. I assure you that you will be wowed. So let's get it started for Poetry Out Loud!
Good morning. Cool. My name is Cameron Clarke, and I will be reciting Black Boys Play the Classics by Toy Derricotte. The most popular act in Penn Station is the 3 black kids in ratty sneakers and t-shirts playing 2 violins and a cello. Brahms. White men in business suits have already dug into their pockets as they pass, and they toss in $1 or $2 without stopping. Brown men in work-soiled khakis stand with their mouths open, arms crossed on their bellies as if they themselves have always wanted to attempt those bars. One white boy, 3, sits cross-legged in front of his idols in ecstasy, their slick, dark faces, their thin, wiry arms who must begin to look like angels. Why does this trembling pull us? A, beneath the surface, we are one. B, amazing. I did not think that they could speak this tongue. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Julia Shapiro, and I will be reciting A Song in the Front Yard by Gwendolyn Brooks. I've stayed in the front yard all my life. I want to peek at the back where it's rough and untended and hungry weed grows. A girl gets sick of a rose. I want to go in the backyard now and maybe down the alley to where the charity children play. I want a good time today. They do some wonderful things. They have some wonderful fun. My mother sneers, but I say it's fine. How they don't have to go in at 8:45. My mother, she tells me that Johnny May will grow up to be a bad woman, that George will be taken to jail sooner or late. On account of last winter, he sold our back gate. But I say it's fine. Honest, I do. And I'd like to be a bad woman too, and wear the brave stockings of night black lace and strut down the streets with paint on my face. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Jessica Sella, and I will be reciting For Love by Robert Creeley. For Love by Robert Creeley. For Bobby. Yesterday, I wanted to speak of it. That sense above the others to me important because all that I know derives from what it teaches me. Today, what is it that is finally so helpless, different? Despairs of its own statement, wants to turn away, endlessly to turn away. If the moon did not, no, if you did not, I wouldn't either. But what would I not do? What prevention? What things so quickly stopped? That was love yesterday or tomorrow, not now. Can I eat what you give me? I have not earned it. Must I think of everything as earned? Now love also becomes a reward so remote from me, I've only made it with my mind. Here is tedium, despair, a painful sense of isolation and whimsical if pompous self-regard. That image is only of the mind's vague structure. Vague to me because it is my own. Love. What do I think to say? I cannot say it. What have you become to ask? What have I made you into? Companion? Good company? Crossed legs with skirt? Or soft body under the bones of the bed? Nothing says anything but that which he wishes would come true. Fears what else might happen in some other place, some other time. Not this one. A voice in my place, an echo of that only in yours. Let me stumble into not the confession, but the obsession I begin with now. For you also. Some time beyond place, or place beyond time. No mind left to say anything at all. That face gone now. To the company of love, it all returns.
Hi, my name is Hannah Anderson, and I will be reciting Thoughtless Cruelty by Charles Lamb. There, Robert, you have killed that fly. And should you 1,000 ages try the life you've taken to supply, you could not do it. You surely must have been devoid of thought and sense to have destroyed a thing which no way you annoyed. You'll one day rue it. 'Twas but a fly, perhaps you'll say, that's born in April, dies in May, that does but just learn to display his wings 1 minute, and in the next is vanished quite. A bird devours it in his flight, or come a cold blast in the night. There's no breath in it. The bird but seeks his proper food, and Providence, whose power endued that fly with life when it thinks good, may justly take it. But you have no excuses for it. A life by nature made so short, less reason is that you, for sport, should shorter make it. A fly, a little thing you rate, but Robert, do not estimate a creature's pain by small or great. The greatest being can have but fibers, nerves, and flesh, and these the smallest ones possess, although their frame and structure less escape our seeing. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Emily Scheider, and I will be reciting I Am the People, the Mob, by Carl Sandburg. I am the people, the mob, the crowd, the mass. Do you know that all the great work of the world is done through me? I am the working man, the inventor, the maker of the world's food and clothes. I am the audience that witnesses history. The Napoleons come from me, and the Lincolns. They die. Then I send forth more Napoleons and Lincolns. I am the seed ground. I am a prairie that will stand for much plowing. Terrible storms pass over me. I forget. The best of me is sucked out and wasted. I forget. Everything but death comes to me and makes me work and give up what I have, and I forget. Sometimes I growl, shake myself, and spatter a few red drops for history to remember. Then I forget. When I, the people, learn to remember, when I, the people, use the lessons of yesterday and no longer forget who robbed me last year, who played me for a fool, then there will be no speaker in all the world say the name, the people, with any fleck of a sneer in his voice or any far-off smile of derision. The mob, the crowd, the mass will arrive then. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Christelle Marie Chua, and I will be reciting Spring and Fall by Gerard Manley Hopkins. Margaret, are you grieving over Golden Grove unleaving? Leaves, like the things of man, you with your fresh thoughts care for, can you? Ah, as the heart grows older, it will come to such sights colder. By and by, nor spare a sigh, though worlds of wanwood leaf meal lie. And yet you will weep, and know why. Now, no matter, child, the name, sorrow springs are the same. nor mouth had, nor no mind expressed, what heart heard of, ghost guessed. It is the blight man was born for. It is Margaret you mourn for. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Kavita Oza, and today I will be reciting Testimonial by Rita Dove. Back when the earth was new and heaven just a whisper. Back when the names of things hadn't had time to stick. Back when the smallest breezes melted summer into autumn, when all the poplars quivered sweetly in rank and file, the world called, and I answered, each glance ignited to a gaze. I caught my breath and called that life, swooned between spoonfuls of lemon sorbet. I was pirouette and flourish. I was filigree and flame. How could I count my blessings when I didn't know their names? Back when everything was still to come, luck leaked out everywhere. I gave my promise to the world, and the world followed me here. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Callie Mae Bowen, and I will be reciting The Properly Scholarly Attitude by Adelaide Crapsey. The poet pursues his beautiful theme, the preacher his golden beatitude, and I run after a vanishing dream, the glittering will of the wispish gleam of the properly scholarly attitude, the highly desirable, the very advisable, the hardly acquirable, properly scholarly attitude. I envy the savage without any clothes who lives in a tropical latitude. It's little of general culture he knows, but then he escapes the worrisome woes of the properly scholarly attitude. The unceasingly sighed over, wept over, cried over, the futilely died over, properly scholarly attitude. I work, and I work, till I nearly am dead, and could say what the watchman said, that I could, but still with a sigh and a shake of the head. You don't understand. It is ruthlessly said. The properly scholarly attitude, the I to be sought for, wrought for, and fought for. The ne'er to be caught for. Properly scholarly attitude. I really am sometimes tempted to say that it's merely a glittering platitude. That people have just fallen into the way when lacking a subject to tell of the sway of the properly scholarly attitude. The easily preachable, spread eagle speechable. In practice, unreachable, properly scholarly attitude.
So are they not amazing? Are the words not beautiful? Yes. And is the music not inspiring? So we are now going to move on to round two as soon as the judges are ready. And everyone will be coming up again in the same order that they came up the first time. So while we're waiting, we're going to go back to the music, I think. And if he's coming out, he's coming out. So we're going right to the next round, folks. Okay?
I am still Cameron Clarke. And I will be reciting The Sun Rising by John Donne. Busy old fool, unruly sun, why dost thou thus through windows and curtains call on us? Must to thy motions lover's seasons run? Saucy pedantic wretch, go chide late schoolboys and sour apprentices. Go tell court huntsmen that the king will ride. Call country ants to harvest offices. Love, all alike, no season knows, nor clime, nor hours, days, months, which are the rags of time. Thy beams, so reverend and strong, why shouldst thou think I could eclipse and cloud them with a wink, but that I would not lose her sight so long? If her eyes have not blinded thine, look, and tomorrow late tell me whether both the Indias of spice and mine be where thou left'st them, or lie here with me. Ask for those kings whom thou sawest yesterday, and thou shalt hear, all here in one bed lay. She's all states and all princes, I, nothing else is. Princes do but play us compared to this, all honors mimic, all wealth alchemy. Thou, son, art half as happy as we in that the world's contracted thus. Thine age asks ease, and since thy duties be to warm the world, that's done in warming us. Shine here to us, and thou art everywhere. This bed thy center is, these walls thy sphere. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Julia Shapiro, and I will be reciting Blackberrying by Sylvia Plath. Nobody in the lane and nothing but blackberries. Blackberries on either side, though on the right mainly. A blackberry alley going down in hooks, and a sea somewhere at the end of it, heaving. Blackberries big as the ball of my thumb, and dumb as eyes. Ebon in the hedges, fat with blue-red juices. These they squander on my fingers. I had not asked for such a blood sisterhood. They must love me. They accommodate themselves to my milk bottle, flattening their sides. Overhead go the choughs in black, cacophonous flocks, bits of burnt paper wheeling in a blown sky. There's the only boys protesting. I do not think the sea will appear at all. The high green meadows are glowing as if lit from within. I come to one bush of berries so ripe, it is a bush of flies, hanging their blue-green bellies and their wing panes in a Chinese screen. The honey feast of the berries has stunned them. They believe in heaven. One more hook and the berries and bushes end. The only thing to come now is the sea. From between two hills, a sudden wind funnels at me, slapping its phantom laundry in my face. These hills are too green and sweet to have tasted salt. I follow the sheep path between them. A last hook brings me to the hill's northern face, and the face is orange rock that looks out on nothing. Nothing but a great space of white and pewter lights and a din like silversmiths, beating and beating at an intractable metal. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Jessica Sella, and I will be reciting Dover Beach by Matthew Arnold. The sea is calm tonight. The tide is full. The moon lies fair upon the straits. On the French coast, the light gleams and is gone. The cliffs of England stand glimmering and vast out in tranquil bay. Come to the window. Sweet is the night air, only from the long line of spray where the sea meets the moon-blank land. Listen. You hear the grating roar of pebbles which the waves draw back and fling at their return. Up the high strand begin and cease, and then again begin with tremulous cadence. Slow. Bring the eternal note of sadness in. Sophocles long ago heard it on the Aegean, and it brought into his mind the turbid ebb and flow of human misery. We find also in the sound a thought, hearing it by this distant northern sea. The sea of faith was once too at the full, and round earth's shore lay like the folds of a bright girdle furled. But now, I only hear its melancholy, long, withdrawing roar, retreating to the breath of the night wind, down vast edges, drear and naked shingles of the world. Ah, love, let us be true to one another. For the world which seems to lie before us like a land of dreams, so various, so beautiful, so new, hath really neither joy, nor love, nor light, nor certitude, nor peace, nor help for pain. And we are here as on a darkling plain, swept with confused alarms of struggle and flight, where ignorant armies clash by night.
Hello, I'm Hannah Anderson, and my next poem is called These Poems, She Said, by Robert Bringhurst. These poems, these poems, these poems, she said, are poems with no love in them. These are the poems of a man who would leave his wife and child because they made noise in his study. These are the poems of a man who would murder his mother to claim the inheritance. These are the poems of a man like Plato, she said, meaning something I did not comprehend, but which nevertheless offended me. These are the poems of a man who would rather sleep with himself than with women, she said. These are the poems of a man with eyes like a draw knife, with hands like a pickpocket's hands, woven of water and logic and hunger, with no strand of love in them. These poems are as heartless as birdsong, as unmeant as elm leaves, which, if they love, love only the wide blue sky and the air and the idea of elm leaves. Love is of the song, not of the singing or the things sung. These poems, she said. You are, he said, beautiful. That is not love, she said rightly. Thank you.
Hello. My name is Emily Scheider, and I will be reciting The Children of the Poor by Gwendolyn Brooks. 1.
People who have no children can be hard. Attain a male of ice and insolence. Need not pause in the fire, and in no sense hesitate in the hurricane to guard. And when wide world is bitten and bewarred, they perish purely, waving their spirits hence without a trace of grace or of offense to laugh or fail. Diffident, wonder-starred, while through a throttling dark, we others hear the little lifting helplessness. The queer whimper whine, whose unridiculous lost softness softly makes a trap for us and makes a curse and makes a sugar of the malocclusions, the inconditions of love. 2. What shall I give my children who are poor, who are adjudged the least wise of the land, who are my sweetest lepers, who demand no velvet and no velvety velour, but who have begged me for a brisk contour, crying that they are quasi, contraband because unfinished, graven by a hand less than angelic, admirable, or sure. My hand is stuffed with mode, design, device, but I lack access to my proper stone. And plenitude of plan shall not suffice, nor grief, nor love shall be enough alone to ratify my little halves who bear across an autumn, freezing everywhere. 3. And shall I pry my children? Pray. To pray? Mites, come invade most frugal vestibules, spectered with crusts of penitence renewals and all hysterics arrogant for a day. Instruct yourselves, here is no devil to pay. Children, confine your lights in jellied rules. Resemble graves, be metaphysical mules. Learn Lord will not distort, nor leave the fray. Behind the scurryings of your neat motif, I shall wait, if you wish. Revise the psalm if that should frighten you. Sow up belief if that should tear. Turn, singularly calm at forehead and at fingers rather wise. Holding the bandage, ready for your eyes. Thank you.
My name is Kristin Marie Tsuo, and I'll be reciting Time Does Not Bring Relief. You All Have Lied by Edna St. Vincent Millay. Time does not bring relief. You all have lied. Who told me time would ease me of my pain? I miss him in the weeping of the rain. I want him at the shrinking of the tide. The old snows melt at every mountainside, and last year's leaves are smoke in every lane. But last year's bitter loving must remain heaped on my heart, and my old thoughts abide. There are 100 places where I fear to go, so with his memory they brim. And entering with relief some quiet place, where never fell his foot or shone his face, I say, there is no memory of him here. And so stand stricken, so remembering him. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Kavita Oza, and the second poem I will be reciting is The Sun Rising by John Donne. Busy old fool, unruly sun, why dost thou thus through windows and through curtains call on us? Must to thy motions lovers' seasons run? Saucy pedantic wretch, go chide late schoolboys and sour prentices. Go tell court huntsmen that the king will ride. Call country aunts to harvest offices. Love, all alike. No season knows, nor clime, nor hours, days, months, which are the rags of time. Thy beams, so reverend and strong, why shouldst thou think I could eclipse and cloud them with a wink, but that I would not lose her sight so long? If her eyes have not blinded thine, look, and tomorrow late tell me whether both the Indias of spice and mine be where thou left'st them, or lie here with me. Ask for those kings whom thou sawest yesterday, and thou shalt hear. All here in one bed lay. She's all states, and all princes I. Nothing else is. Princes do but play us. Compared to this, all honors mimic, all wealth, alchemy. Thou, son, art half as happy as we, in that the world's contracted thus. Thine age asks ease, and since thy duties be to warm the world, that's done in warming us. shine here to us, and thou art everywhere. This bed thy center is, these walls thy sphere. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Callie Mae Bowen, and I will be reciting The Way It Sometimes Is by Henry Taylor. At times, it is like watching a face you have just met, trying to decide who it reminds you of. No one surely whom you ever hated or loved. But yes, somebody. You watch the face as it turns and nods, showing you at certain angles a curve of the lips or a lift of the eyebrow that is exactly right. And still, the lost face eludes you. Now, this face is talking, and you hear a sound in the voice, the accent on certain words. Yes, a phrase you barely recall sitting outside by a pool or a campfire, remarking a peculiar recurring expression. 2 syllables, wasn't it? Doorknob? Bathroom? Shawcross? What the hell kind of word is Shawcross? A name. Not the right one. A couple of syllables that could possibly be a little like something you may once have heard. So the talk drifts, and you drift, sneaking glances pounding your brain. Days later, a face occurs to you, and yes, there is a resemblance. That odd word, though, or phrase, is gone. It must have been somebody else. Yes, it's like that at times. Something is maybe. And there are days when you can almost say what it is.
Everyone, how you doing? Good. We are just about ready to go into the final round, round 3. As we're waiting here, just a couple of things. I'd like to have a loud applause for our judges. And I would also like to thank Princeton University, Paul Muldoon, and the unbelievably professional crew here at Lisner Auditorium who have made this a very, very wonderful and elegant event.
Thank you. Still morning. Good morning. I'm Cameron Clarke, and I will be reciting Yet Do I Marvel by County Cullen. I doubt not God is good, well-meaning, kind. And did he stoop to quibble, could tell why the little buried mole continues blind, why flesh that mirrors him must someday die? Make plain the reason tortured Tantalus is baited by the fickle fruit. Declare if merely brute caprice dooms Sisyphus to struggle up a never-ending stair. Inscrutable his ways are, and immune to catechism by a mind too strewn with petty cares to slightly understand what awful brain compels his awful hand. Yet do I marvel at this curious thing. To make a poet black and bid him sing? Thank you.
Hi, my name is Julia Shapiro, and I will be reciting Love Armed by Afra Ben. Love in fantastic triumph sat, whilst bleeding hearts around him flowed, for whom fresh pains he did create, and strange tyrannic power he showed. From thy bright eyes he took his fire, which round about in sport he hurled. But 'twas from mine he took desire, enough to undo the amorous world. From me he took his sighs and tears, from thee his pride and cruelty, from me his languishments and fears, and every killing dart from thee. Thus thou and I the god have armed, and set him up a deity. But my poor heart alone is harmed, whilst thine the victor is, and free. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Jessica Sella, and I will be reciting The Emperor of Ice Cream by Wallace Stevens. Call the roller of big cigars, the muscular one, and bid him whip in kitchen cups concupiscent curds. Let the wenches dawdle in such dress as they are used to wear, and let the boys bring flowers in last month's newspapers. Let B be finale of scene. The only emperor is the emperor of ice cream. Take from the dresser, lacking the 3 glass snobs, that sheet on which she embroidered fantails once, and set it so as to cover her face. If her horny feet protrude, it comes to show how cold she is and dumb. Let the lamp affix its beam. The only emperor is the emperor of ice cream.
Hi, my name is Hannah Anderson, and my final poem is entitled On the Existence of the Soul by Patty Ann Rogers. How confident I am. It is there. Don't I bring it as if it were enclosed in a fine leather case to particular places solely for its own sake? Haven't I set it down before the variegated canyon and the undeviating bald salt dome? Don't I feed it on ivory calcium and ruffled shell bellies, shore boulders, on the site of the petrel, motionless over the sea, its splayed feet hanging? Don't I make sure it apprehends the invisibly fine spray more than once? I have seen that it takes in every detail I can manage concerning the garden wall and its borders. I have listed for it the comings and goings of 100 species of insects, explicitly described. I have named the chartreuse stripe and the fimbriated antenna, the bulbed thorax and the multiple eye. I have sketched the brilliant wings of the trumpet vine and invented new vocabularies describing the interchanges between rocks and their crevices, between the holly lip and its concept of itself. And if not for its sake, why would I go out into the night alone and stare deliberately straight up into 15 billion years ago and more? I have cherished it. I have named it. By my own solicitations, I have proof of its presence. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Emily Scheider, and my final poem is To Fashion by Elizabeth Moody. Gay fashion, thou goddess so pleasing, however imperious thy sway, like a mistress capricious and teasing. Thy slaves, though, they murmur, obey. The simple, the wise, and the witty, the learned, the dunce, and the fool, the crooked, straight, ugly, and pretty wear the badge of thy whimsical school. Though thy shape be so fickle and changing, that a Proteus thou art to the view. And our taste, so forever deranging, we know not which form to pursue. Yet, wave but thy frolicsome banners, and hosts of adherents we see. Arts, morals, religion, and manners yield implicit obedience to thee. More despotic than beauty thy power,
More than virtue thy rule o'er the mind. Though transient thy reign as a flower that scatters its leaves to the wind. Ah, while folly dealest such measure, no matter how fleeting thy day, be wisdom, dear goddess, thy pleasure. Then lasting as time be thy stay. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Kristin Marie Tsuo, and I will be reciting Learning to Love America by Shirley Gyok Lin Lim. Because it has no pure products, because the Pacific Ocean sweeps along the coastline, because the water of the ocean is cold, and because land is better than ocean. Because I say we rather than they. Because I live in California, I have eaten fresh artichokes and jacaranda bloom in April and May. Because my senses have caught up with my body, my breath with the air it swallows, my hunger with my mouth. Because I walk barefoot in my house. Because I have nursed my son at my breast. Because he is a strong American boy. Because I have seen his eyes redden when he is asked who he is. Because he answers, I don't know. Because to have a son is to have a country. Because my son will bury me here. Because countries are in our blood and we bleed them. Because it is late, and too late to change my mind. Because it is time. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Kavita Oza, and the final poem I will be reciting is Ego by Denise DeHamel. I just didn't get it. Even with the teacher holding an orange, the earth in one hand, and a lemon, the moon in the other, her favorite student, the sun, standing behind her with a flashlight. I just couldn't grasp it. This whole citrus universe, these bumpy planets revolving so slowly no one could even see themselves moving. I used to think if I could only concentrate hard enough, I could be the one person to feel what no one else could. Sense a small tug from the ground, a sky shift, the earth changing gears. Even though I was only one mini speck on a speck, even though I was merely a pinprick in one goosebump on the orange, I was sure then I was the most specially perceptive, perceptively sensitive. I was sure then my mother was the only mother to snap, "The world doesn't revolve around you!" The earth was fragile and mostly water, just the way the orange was mostly water if you peeled it, just the way I was mostly water if you peeled me. Looking back on that third grade science demonstration, I can understand why some people gave up on fame or religion or cures, especially people who have an understanding of the excruciating crawl of the world, who have a well-developed sense of spatial reasoning and the tininess that it is to be one of us. But not me. Even now, I wouldn't mind being God. The force who spins the planets the way I spin a globe, a basketball, a yo-yo. I wouldn't mind being that teacher who chooses the fruit, or that favorite kid who gives the moon its glow. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Callie Mae Bowen, and I will be reciting the New Decalogue by Ambrose Bierce. Have but one God. Thy knees were sore, if bent in prayer to 3 or 4. Adore no images, save those the coinage of thy country shows. Take not the name in vain. Direct thy swearing unto some effect. Thy hand from Sunday work be held. Work not at all, unless compelled. Honor thy parents, and perchance their wills thy fortunes may advance. Kill not. Death liberates thy foe from persecution's constant woe. Kiss not thy neighbor's wife. Of course, there's no objection to divorce. To steal were folly, for 'tis plain in cheating there is greater gain. Bear not false witness. Shake your head and say that you have heard it said. Who stays to covet ne'er will catch an opportunity to snatch.
So that concludes all 3 of our rounds. The judges, thank you. Let's have a big hand for all of those writers. We are here to do poetry today, and not math, but if you take 8 and you divide it by 19,500, you have a very, very small percentage. This is the 8 of the 19,500. I'd like to bring up now Kristin Tsuo to say a few words to us. Kristin? Our 2012 Poetry Out Loud champion.
Thank you so much for bringing me back this year. I'm so excited to be here, and congratulations. You all are fantastic. I loved all the performances. Poetry Out Loud has been a huge part of my life for the past 2 years, and I'm so grateful for that. But before I started Poetry Out Loud my sophomore year, poetry was not my friend. I distinctly remember one night I was analyzing this really long poem about shovels and pens for my sophomore English class, and I was asking myself, like, why doesn't the poet just say what he wants to say? I mean, poetry was difficult, and it was really frustrating. But when I started doing poetry out loud, I realized that, this process would give me a very different approach to poetry. And, it seemed really easy at first. Pick a poem, memorize it, and recite it. I didn't know that to choose a poem, I had to comb through, pages and pages on the wonderful online catalog, and I clicked on every poet's name, and I read the same poems over and over just to find that perfect poem that somehow both fit me and challenged me at the same time. And obviously, really understanding the poem, takes so many more months and so many more readings. But before I did poetry out loud, I never had the time or thought I needed the time to let a poem really just steep in your mind. But it was during this period that I really began to see the beauty in trying to figure out what the heck the poet's trying to say. And when you're finally able to put together all those pieces, it's so satisfying. It's like you finally completely internalize the poem, and now you have this really intimate connection with this poem that no one else has. But I think the greatest part of this Poetry Out Loud process is actually memorizing the poems, because it allows you to put yourself and your voice into the poems. And I think this was the part that was missing for me when I was just reading and analyzing poems in class. In the act of memorization, the words become yours, and you are the one saying them out loud, and that's extremely empowering. I remember this one phrase in one of the poems I did last year called Pastoral Dialogue by Anne Killigrew. And in the poem, she's describing how painful love can be. And she says this one phrase, "Oh, cruel fetters," with an exclamation point. And when you're reading it on the page, it's pretty obvious what it means in the context of the poem. But in the air, when I'm saying it out loud, all of a sudden I had to consider, do I want this to be a cry of desperation or an outburst of anger? Because those are two very different tones when you're saying the poem out loud. And, this was up to me, not the poet. So all of a sudden, I had a voice in the poem. And it's really amazing, I think, how you can hear each performer's voice in his or her poems. When I went to nationals, I was just amazed that all the participants actually got to know each other through their poetry performances, because you can hear, the distinct voice and even the personality of each performer through their recitations. I remember at nationals when a group of us, we were just sitting in a restaurant for lunch, and someone suggested that we recite our poems just for fun. So one by one, people got up and started reciting their poems in the middle of the restaurant, and we were all cheering and clapping really loudly. And it was such a surreal moment because, first of all, a year before, poetry was not in my life at all. But second of all, because we were such a diverse group of people. Tall, short, jocks, actors, really outgoing, really shy. But in that moment, all of us became best friends because we had this mutual appreciation and love for poetry. So I will definitely never forget the experiences I've had participating in Poetry Out Loud and what I've learned. I think it's really given me a way to express myself that I never thought I would have. And I'm now a huge poetry geek and very proud of it. So thank you again to everyone who's involved in Poetry Out Loud, and congratulations.
One thing I do want to remind all of you and your parent, guardians, and teachers, immediately after this, you're all to go downstairs where you will get all of your certificates, and there'll be a photo op, okay? So don't forget to do that, those of you who are with them. I am now going to bring out Carol Cronheim. A decision has been made.
Thank you very much. What an incredible, amazing morning. Let's have another round of applause for all our participants. You guys can be very proud of your performances, and you were all really incredible. In recognition of making the state finals and for your great work today, you'll be receiving your certificate downstairs, and also a small token of respect and esteem after the show. I want to thank, again, John Pietrowski for being our MC. He did a fabulous job. And thanks to the NEA and the Poetry Foundation, the state runner-up will receive $100 with $200 for his or her school library for the purchase of poetry books. Our state champion will receive $200 and an all-expenses paid trip to Washington, D.C. to represent New Jersey and compete against 52 other champions for the national title. The state champion school will receive a $500 stipend for the purchase of poetry books. As I mentioned earlier, new this year, both the state champion and the runner-up will recite at the 2 p.m. session of the International Princeton Poetry Festival, and we hope you'll stick around for that. Also new this year, generously provided by Cavity Press, the donation of books of poetry for all participating schools, all regional and state competitors, and a special award to the teacher of the state champion, tuition and lodging for the Frost Place Conference for Teachers this June in New Hampshire. So thank you to Cavity Press. Few small housekeeping matters. Videos of today's performance will be online soon at jerseyarts.com. The parents and chaperones I mentioned immediately after, please head straight downstairs. And the audience, there's much exciting poetry coming today, and to do that, Princeton has to turn over the theater rather quickly. So we ask that the audience expeditiously make their way to the exits and right out the door and chat outside on the plaza there, out in front of Alexander Hall. It's a beautiful spot. And now, the moment you have all been waiting for. It's my pleasure to announce to you our 2013 New Jersey Poetry Out Loud State Runner-Up. And the runner-up is Cameron Clarke. Congratulations. Congratulations. Great job. And finally, it's my honor to announce the winner of the Figurative Laurel Wreath. Our 2013 New Jersey Poetry Out Loud State Champion is Kavita Oza. Kavita, you did a great job. You all did a great job. So thank you, everyone. Participants, please head on downstairs, and guests, please head on out. Thank you very much.